Hi, Bruno. Hi, Vipin. So I'll start. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for this exciting webinar on how to become a star Java developer. This is Sashi, your moderator for the webinar. I run an IT services company called Lexus Labs, and I'm very happy to be here with you all today. Uh, you know, about the topic, Java has been around for ages now. Like everybody practically, even outside software, knows that there's a language called Java. It's very popular and all that. But the remarkable thing about Java is how well it evolved over the decades to sort of the core language itself, and also the framework surrounding it, like Spring Boot, Rails, Micronaut, that offer new functionality. They're more cloud friendly. Some of these are cloud native. So Java, in that sense, has really kept up with the with advances elsewhere in the area of software. So that's what makes it really relevant even today. And most of the enterprise IT applications, most of the backends are built on Java. And also things like Kotlin make mobile development very simple, and so it sort of all this adds up to the popularity that Java has among developers around the world. But I think one of the things that's becoming harder for developers because there's so much that's changing both in Java and both outside of the Java world. Is what are the core skills that I pick up, and then what order do I pick them up, and at what level, to sort of become like a more marketable, become a more productive programmer, and become more resourceful at work. So it's very hard, for somebody who's just trying to enter the Java landscape to really make sense of how to really start, and what to learn, what things are valued by companies and stuff like that. Obviously everybody starts with core Java, but what after that? Do you want to become like an API developer? Do you want to become like a big data developer, or do you want to be a full stack guy? And then what's your career path if you choose to be either of those? So these are the things that are not really clear, for most programmers. And considering we have like a very large, if not the largest community of Java developers in India, we thought we'll bring together great set of speakers, from the cross section of industry, from around the Java community, who can really help help us make sense of how we can build a successful Java career, how to take those first steps, how to build your skill set and become like I said, more productive and more valuable. Without much ado, I would like to sort of introduce the very special people on this panel. We have Bruno Souza. Bruno Souza is called the Brazilian Java man, or I think these days just Java man. He's widely known and respected in the Java community. He is an open source advocate. He is the president of SouJava, a play on his name, which is a Brazilian Java user group he helped establish, which became the world's largest group of Java enthusiasts. He's also one of the initiators of the Apache Harmony project. The Apache Harmony project tries to sort of create a non-proprietary Java virtual machine. So that's something that he's actively involved in. We also have from the developer community, we have Vipin. Vipin Sharma is a senior developer. He has deep expertise in core Java, Python, shell scripting, Spring, SQL, Memcached, EHCache, and a lot of other things. In Java, the MVC frameworks like Spring Boot and all that. And he's been building cutting-edge Java applications for over 15 years now. And then he has really explored the length and breadth of Java. So we thought he'll bring in that tech perspective for us today on the webinar. We also have Ravi Maithani. Ravi Maithani is an experienced HR professional, HR leader, I should say. He works with Tide. Tide is an innovative fintech startup based out of London. They serve about 300,000 small businesses, and they operate in that very hot area that is at the intersection of finance and technology, generally called fintech. Ravi helped Tide set up a technology center and he was able to rapidly scale the team from 0 to 180 within 12 months, which is really, really amazing, considering, the kind of skills that they go after. They go after really, really rock star programmers, because it's a fintech, it's a startup, it's a product. So there's no cutting corners. So considering the competition you have these days in terms of hiring great people, so that's amazing. So we have, Ravi, who has seen from the front lines on what it takes to be a good professional, that can really attract companies, and that can really land you good positions. So Ravi he's worked on large enterprises, small enterprises in the area of HR operations, business partnering, talent acquisition, and organizational change management. And like I said, he's got the ability to really start from scratch, set up an organization and scale. Um, so we also have Neelam Chillani. Neelam is an experienced project manager at Deutsche Bank. Previously, she was with Accenture, and she has experience, as you would expect, Deutsche Bank and Accenture. She has experience in sort of leading complex and large-scale software development projects. And she understands the nuts and bolts of software delivery and how it is changing. Both these companies, Accenture, Deutsche Bank, generally at the forefront of software delivery in terms of the innovation, and all that is generally baked into their processes. So we thought, from a more general perspective, in addition to the tech skills, what else can a programmer have that makes him really, really valuable when he's working on a project team? So Neelam brings that perspective today. We also have Shivanand Tripathi, who's a leading Java trainer, very popular, is a programmer and a trainer, which is rare, considering people do either, but he is he can roll up his sleeves and start coding if you want, and he can also train people with great panache. And then he has a great following on the internet. He has deep knowledge of Java and all the new frameworks, and he's known for his engaging style of content delivery. So a great panel. As best a panel as you could get. If you're a rookie programmer, if you're just starting out, you want to take those initial steps into the Java world, you'll get a lot of insights from this session. And also, if you're an experienced programmer and you think your career sort of flatlined, the career growth flatlined, and then you really want to sort of make that next big move, what skills you need to learn, what makes you marketable, I think you will take away a lot of important lessons from these very special people. One word about the structure. So we have 45 minutes the session. We have 45 minutes for the actual panel, which I will be moderating. And we have 15 minutes at the end for Q&A. And feel free to send us questions. We'll have the panel members answer them. Just let us know which panel member you want to target the question at. We will target it to him, and we'll also let the others respond to those questions. So a great panel, very privileged to be here, to be moderating this session. So we'll start right away without wasting any time. So I'll start with Bruno. Bruno, thanks for joining us from Brazil. I want to ask you, considering that you've been in the Java world for a long time, what has changed and what hasn't changed in the world of Java over the last decade?
Okay, hey, hello, Sashi. How are you doing? Hi, everyone. Right, it's awesome to be here in this awesome panel. So I'm probably gonna misname everyone here, right? So thanks Ravi, thanks Vipin, thanks Saguna, thanks Anita, Neelan, Shiva, and thanks a lot for the invitation, Sashi. And everyone is here, right? So we're streaming this onto YouTube. So if you ask questions, right, we can all help you answer that. So feel free to send your questions as soon as you can. But Sashi, it's hard to say what haven't changed, right? From this more than 25 years of Java, right? So many things have changed. When Java started, it was just it was created for interactive TV applications, right? And actually took more than 20 years for us to actually have that interactive TV applications on it, right? So it's like so the whole world of Java has changed a lot, but there's one thing that I think it defines Java from the very beginning. And I was actually having a discussion with some Java champions this past week exactly about that when Java started, right? It was 1995, the first public release of Java. Actually, Java started in 1990, right? But 1995 was the first public release of Java. And Sun did a very, very courageous thing at that time that it's very, very rare, right? So Sun actually published Java with the whole source code, right? And so, and we have to remember how courageous that is, right? Because the open source movement, actually the definition of open source was only defined in 1998, right? So 3 years before we even had the definition of, I mean, of course we had the free software license, we had license that would allow you to see the source code, all of that, right? The GPL is older than that, but the definition of what open source was only came in 1998, right? So Sun, 3 years before that, Sun released Java with this full source code and a license that allowed people to play with and change things and submit things back. It was not an open source license by any stretch of the imagination, right? There's no corporations at that time would not actually create an open source license at that time, but it was, as I'm saying, this was before even a definition of open source existed, right? So with that, Java created like a huge community, like a worldwide community. Allowed me, I'm in Brazil, and I probably have the same difficulties that you guys have in India, or in access of technology, access to people, and and things in Brazil always take a lot longer to show up. But in 1995, together with the whole world, we all were able to start participating in Java. We all were able to see the source code of the Java virtual machine, the source code of all the libraries. We were able to start learning about Java together with everyone else, right? So, and that created such a huge movement, a huge community. So basically, I think that Java was the very first language that started on the internet age, right? It started with everyone participating together, everyone doing things together, and that's why I think that Java is so strong to this day, right? So that did not change, right? A lot of technology changed, the APIs changed, the language itself changed, the way you learn it completely changed. Where you apply it changed it. But I think the one thing that contains, that Java has so many people from so many places, so many companies, so many countries, right, participating. That Java still is very multi-platform, so you can run Java anywhere. Java still allows you to create any kind of application, right, from desktop to big servers, to mobile, to AI and big data, anything you want to do, right? So I think that's one of the big strengths of Java. Anything you want to do, you can apply Java for. And so and all of these is being possible because Java has been very, very open from the start and very, very community driven from the start. So that's still going strong.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I really agree with you that Java as a programming language is the first global phenomenon in terms of a community really coming together, really deeply invested in the language becoming more powerful over the years. But yeah, just to kind of, ask Vipin about the continuing popularity of Java, considering, you have languages like JavaScript, now, with Node.js and a lot of these Express.js, Vue.js. JavaScript is really the whole paradigm of JavaScript anywhere. You could build a front end on JavaScript, you could build a back end on JavaScript. JavaScript is really trying to take the cake away from Java. The new developers are trying to use JavaScript more, and the people who are just starting out, they are much likely to go into JavaScript because that's what the job market wants. So what do you have to say about that, Vipin? So do you think Java will still remain relevant, or is it only because some very large corporations have applications built on Java that you still have Java programmers, or your take?
There are multiple aspects to this. Like when you say Java is like when you compare Java with other languages. So first of all, if you talk about job market, then right now, if you take a look at job market, then most of the jobs are up for Java, right? So even if you compare with JavaScript, Java or Python, any other language, so job market is definitely good for Java developers. Other than that, I think there is no comparison from JavaScript and Java because these are playing different roles. JavaScript is on front end and Java is mainly on the back end. I would say mainly Java has a couple of things in front end as well. Java FX is there and a couple of other things. But I would say Java is like, this is one of the most used language in uh, enterprises, most of the big companies. If you take a look at any enterprise application, this is the first choice. If you want to build an application, there are other languages, of course, there, but those are not providing that kind of features Java has for a enterprise application, where enterprise application requires there's like you can talk about static typing and all. So this is really a beneficial language, and a lot of community support, and a lot of work done in community. A lot of people are active helping you guys, like Bruno is helping everybody in the Java world, right? So there's a big community in Java world where people support each other. If you are a new developer, people are supporting you. You have a lot of things to learn from. So I would say in terms of that, if you compare with other languages, Java has really big advantages. And even you can contribute in Java development. You today any developer can go and start contribution in Java development. It is open source. Now it is on GitHub as well. You can go and you can pick up an issue and you can start developing anything. You can start with small bug fixes, and probably when you are expert, you can even implement a feature as well. You can propose a feature. So I would say it is uh, as Bruno said, it is, like, it is an open source language and very big community. So I would say it has really big advantage there.
I agree with you there, because one of the things that I see very often is companies that generally go to these campuses that are trying to hire fresh graduates want most people to learn at least Java, because if you know Java, the sense is that the object-oriented programming implementation in Java, or the way things are implemented in Java, if you can code in Java, you could just easily pick up any other language. So I totally understand, why it continues to be popular among programmers. And like you said, I think the community is a great part of Java being very popular. It's very helpful. You have a problem, you go to Stack Overflow. There are like 1,000 solutions already available to your problems. So that way, I agree with you that Java is popular. But just to kind of shift perspective and then go to Ravi, because Ravi has been hiring for what is a very hot area. Because there's this very interesting quote in technology that if you're looking for talent, then it's hard, today, given the way the market is. And if you're looking for good talent, then it's harder. And then if you're looking for great talent, then God bless you. So, very, very hard to find great tech talent. And Ravi, from your side, have you noticed any polarization in the job market where you're finding it hard to get developers in a certain skill set? What are those skill sets that you're looking for that are not really in supply in the market? And how much Java hiring does Tide do? So your take on basically the demand for Java developers.
Basically, it's a very hot market for Java. So I cannot say anything less. So, and like you said, if you're really looking for strong developers, and I'll come to that. What I mean with that, it is a very niche market. And companies are willing to pay anything. So now I come back to what do you mean by strong developers? So I think there are always two aspects to when any company, my experience is when we're looking for strong developers. When we say strong developers, does it mean that they've learned things by heart? Actually not. So we basically look for passion. We basically look for how crazy are they about solving problems, using programming, and how passionate they are about any language. So I think what has happened is that while we look for Java people, we also look for people, let's say if they're for Python background, Node.js, anyone who's passionate about things and who really wants to code, who knows why they are doing coding rather than one trap which is there, which is Java pays well. I recommend when someone asks me, does Java pay well? Java jobs pay well. I say, whatever you do, do with your 100%. Money is incidental; that will come. Now, if you are if you're passionate about Java, just do it. The money will follow you. You really don't have to follow the money. Do what you really like to do. Similarly, if even if it is Python, we say the same thing. But the fact is that for us, the core stack is Java. So we first look for people, who have a Java background, who are passionate about things, who know the fundamental. Java is such a huge language. It's evolved so much over the last 25 years that we don't expect everyone to know everything, but what we expect from them is whatever they know, they should really understand it. So that's the key, because if you are into understanding the fundamentals of why you are doing and what you are doing, then companies can teach you. Your colleagues will teach you. Your colleagues will, you have pair programming. Once you get in how things work, so I think that passion for coding, for development is the key, and the language that you're using. And I think finally the second part that I quite often talk about is it's a hack when you're applying for a company. Always research a company. I've seen a lot of people that they go by brands. Oh, this is a big name, everyone knows it, I'll join that company. If you are a coder, you need to talk to someone in their engineering team and understand what they do, what kind of development work they do, what kind of exposure do they get, and always go in for the work content rather than brand and money, especially in the initial years. The brand and money will follow you. So the companies like us, Tide, we will handpick you from the market. So we kind of hire 1 in 1,000 applications that we get. So we will handpick you. Don't worry about that. Just follow your passion, do the research, go for the work content rather than just the brand name or the initial money factor. Money will follow you.
Right. I think that's a good point, because these days everybody sort of evaluates the worth of a job based on how much it pays. So it kind of is important to keep that perspective, that I think over time your pay converges. So it's just a matter of, like you said, following your passion. So
it's the value is the value you create for yourself. In the initial year, don't just value does not come in terms of monetary gains. It comes in terms of the experience you get, in terms of the people that you work with, in terms of the colleagues that you work with. So whenever someone asks me for an advice, I say, keep the monetary aside if you can afford to do that for the initial years. Pick a company where you will work with really good developers who will push you to your limits, from whom you can learn. Always try to look for that, and then things will start falling into place.
So I mean, just to kind of shift gears and then really talk about what happens when a new Java developer joins a team. So Neelam, one of the worst kept secrets of software development is that programmers do 80% of their learning on the job. Like Ravi was hinting at, 20% of what they know before they start is theory. The actual learning starts on the job. Did you ever think that there are things that the programmer should have learned before they're deployed on projects? And if yes, then what are those things? And how do you sort of advise programmers to go about learning them before they can start working?
Yeah, thanks, Shashi. So to continue with what Ravi was saying, I completely agree that curiosity and attitude are two important things for the beginners, I would say. Right. So if they are curious to learn new things, and if they have the right attitude, then technology is not a challenge. You can learn any technology within a week or maximum 2 weeks time. There are multiple online sources available these days. Different training classes are there. So it is not very difficult to learn any new technology. We have upskilled many new developers to different technology stacks. Yeah. The most important thing is the right attitude and the curiosity to learn new things. Yeah.
Right.
Now, if you ask me what things they should be knowing before they start their job, is the basics. The core things that they learn during their college life or during their greenfield trainings, the basic concepts must be clear. Once they know what is object-oriented programming, what is functional programming, what are the basic principles behind that, they can learn any language. So yeah, that would be
Right.
my advice.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so Shiva, I'll just cut to you for a minute because I mean Bruno hinted at it, and then you have Neelam also more or less echoing the view that there's a lot of there are a lot of resources available today for anybody who wants to learn, much of it online. So if I am a fresh engineer and I want to really become a good Java developer, how do I go about it? So are there any authentic sources? Because in my days, when I was in college, there used to be a book called The Complete Reference. It was the thickest book of all my engineering days. So that was the standard reference that we used to do. But these days, people don't head books. They go someplace online and learn that. But generally, are there any interesting or authentic sources that you should do? Any certifications? Any standard curriculum that you want them to master before they can start their first job?
Yeah, so basically, see, from Java perspective, for myself, I prefer mostly on API. Okay, so best resources available Java Oracle Docs as of now. So if anything want to learn, we have to go simply open the Oracle Docs. Any topic we can start learning from there. That is the best resource. Anywhere you can get like. Then we can follow some blogs also, but blogs as per different people. Sometimes we'll get might be not 100% truth. Okay, so what I suggest best way go and start learning that API docs, Oracle docs. Okay, that is the best way to learn for anyone doing preparing for certification. No need to go any dumps and all. If you learn API docs properly, like one by one topic or package wise, how you want. And as Neelam told, I also prefer mostly basic only. People now running for like start running by Spring, Hibernate, and this is not. If you best in core Java, any company, any product based service, they judge on core Java only first. So if you start
Right.
strong in core Java, go and start learning on Oracle API. Apart from that, we have some geeks for geeks. Is there like that is about? But I said best is the Oracle docs as of now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Thank you. So, just taking a point, taking that point out of what Shiva just said. Bruno. It appears to me that 80% of programmers today, they work on some sort of a framework on top of the core Java, right? So you have the core Java stack, and you have something like Spring Boot and all, where they are generally removed from the implementation details. Finer things like memory management, which in my college days, we would spend like a lot of time learning, and even in the initial days when we start coding, those are things that are very hard to understand. But these days, most of these things, even something as simple as SQL query, is sort of the complexity of writing a SQL query is so greatly reduced by using an ORM. So does it really change what programming is, or does it create new problems? Because you have a whole breed of programmers that are now working directly on frameworks removed from the actual implementation details. So any ideas there, Bruno?
Well, I think that software development has been solving more interesting problems. I love what Ravi said, that you're our job, right, as developers, right? It's to solve problems, right? So what we want is solve bigger problems. And I think that, I was having a conversation with James Gosling many years ago when we started the whole effort of Harmony and the open source Java implementation of Apache. And so I introduced him to several open source, guys that were working on open source VMs at that time. And so, James was asking all those kind of questions to them, and then he said, I love what you guys are doing, but I'm not interested in doing, a Java VM, an open source Java VM, because I've already done that, right? I'm looking for other problems. And I think this is the mindset that we have to have, right? There's so many interesting problems to solve. And why are you going to try to solve the same problems over and over and over again, right? I'm not sure if you guys have how you call like these big places where you have lots of developers working. In Brazil, we call them software factories, right? And I just hate that name, right? Because a software factory is a CD printing place, right? Because that's what our factory is. Our factory, you do the same thing over and over and over, right? And so, for me, every time someone tells me, oh, that's a software factory, I'm like, okay, do you guys print CDs? Is that what you do, right? Or you do copy and paste, right? But, because developers, we solve different problems. Once a problem is solved, it's solve it, right? Why, it needs to be resolved if we change the environment, if we change the situation, if we change the place where you're going to deploy. I mean, if things change, we need to rethink. And I think that's the beauty of libraries and abstractions. And a lot of people can think, oh, but no, that's an abstraction. But think about it. How many abstractions we leave in our programming, right? We know nothing about the hardware. We know nothing about the physics of the chip, right? We know nothing about there's so many. We know nothing about the internet, right? By the way, right? You get I kind of follow the guys from Cloudflare, for example. You see what those guys are doing, right? I have no idea. The internet just works, right? With all the protocols and everything going on. So there's so many abstractions, and I don't think we should be worried about, oh, there's one more abstraction I don't. It's like you're living on the top of a mountain of abstractions, and then you worried about this tiny little step of abstraction that's OR mapping, right? So I don't think we should be worried about that. We really should be worried about what kind of problems we're going to solve, right? What kind of problems that we can solve. My vision of life and of career, right? Ravi was talking about what you need to do to be a great developer. My vision of career is, look for the biggest problem you can solve, right? Look around in your project, in your company, in your house, in your life. Look around the biggest problem you can solve. You are the right person to solve, and solve that, right? And you might say, but Bruno, I'm just starting. I don't have a big problem to solve. That's okay. Just find the biggest one that you can solve and go solve that. Once you solve that, look for the next big problem that you can solve and solve that one, right? And so I think that, and some people, like you got Vipin, for example. Vipin is working on the JVM, right? And so there are positions and places and opportunities for you to go look into the very specific problems, and you go look and how to implement object relational mapping, how to implement the frameworks, how to implement networking, how to implement, you can go and do those things if you want to, right? But if you don't want to, go solve different problems. I think each one of us have the opportunity to go solve important problems, no matter what kind of abstraction we're looking for.
Right. So I love that point, Bruno. Like you said, if the programmer is really free of the details that have already been worked out by a library or a framework, I think that gives them an opportunity to go solve bigger problems. So just to go back to Ravi, you mentioned problem solving as a very, very core attribute that you look for in candidates. So again, can you just throw some color on it? What sort of problem solving?
So I'll give you some example, like I'll give from a very practical point of view. So when what do I really mean when I say solving a problem? Like, so we break it up into two parts. One is the logical ability to create a solution, right? And the second one is apply coding to basically follow that solution. So a simple example, let's say, we might ask a candidate, okay, you were to build a WhatsApp application today, right? From what you know as a user, how do you define the problem, and what is the solution that you'll do? It need not be very complex, because it is like a half an hour, 45-minute interaction. But you start then, when the person starts answering, he starts making a solution model. It gives you a good aspect of, is the person how's the logical flow that he's using? What are the different parameters that he's talking about? And then when you come to the second part, you look at how does he now apply his coding abilities or his technology to come as close to the solution as possible, because then they'll start hitting edge conditions or really complex problems, like 2 messages coming at the same time, 20 messages coming at the same time, now 200,000 messages coming at the same time. So what is the difference in complexity? So you basically then pick those things. So it's all about I think that ability to identify a problem and that craziness to kind of solve it, I think we can solve it, and then start applying logic to it. That's what we look at. If you got passion and you've got a basic sense of how the logic would flow, and put things together, and you've got that inherent ability to solve problems, you will crack it.
Great.
And building on that, Ravi, there's a question here from Anand, and he says, which is the best resource to master Java? And the best resource are problems, right? You want to master
Yes.
Java, or you want to master any technology,
Absolutely.
right? You got, just go find problems. Exactly.
Problems.
Do what Ravi just said. Look at a problem, think of ways to solve it, think logically, and you can do this while you're walking on the street, right? You're walking on the street going to work. Look at a problem around you and say, okay, that's a problem. How do I solve that? If I could solve it, if it wasn't my power to solve it, what I would do to solve that problem. And then as a developer, you say, okay, so if I'm going to put a computer to solve that problem, if I'm going to solve that problem using software, using the internet, using computers, using an application, how are you do to solve that problem with a computer? And if you're a Java developer like Anand, and I say you want to be better at Java, you say, how do I solve that problem with Java, right? Which libraries am I going to use to solve that particular problem? And once you find a solution in Java, right, in your head, I'm not saying, oh, I need to go and program everything. No, in your head, once you find a solution, shut it down, right? Destroy your own solution because your solution is wrong, right? You didn't think about something. You didn't consider some possibility. There's some mistake in your solution. So shut it down. And that's going to make you even better in solving problems. So just go solve problems every single day. That is the best resource on it. I'm sure other people can point to specific things, but for me, the best thing for you to be a developer is solving problems every single day.
That's
I
a great
completely
point.
agree with that. I think problems are the best teachers, because then you apply and learn together, and that's the best way to retain. The best way to kind of test your learning.
Right. So just to zoom in on that aspect a little bit, obviously what programmers do is they solve problems, and they solve interesting problems, and the more interesting the problem, the more higher the reward, both intellectually and financially, or in every manner. But the amount, the sheer amount of things that you need to know, the breadth of things that you're supposed to know to solve one problem has been increasing over time. These days, for me to do a web application, so I would need to learn a little bit of cloud, the actual programming, and also the how to write queries, which is sort of which is like the entry pass. But then you need to learn a lot of things on how to maintain containers. You have Kubernetes, scaling, all these things. So Vipin, how's the tech what do you call the starter skill set, as we call them in the companies? When somebody's starting out in programming, previously it was okay for him to learn core Java, but now the amount of things that you should know, the breadth of things that you should know. So has that changed, or are there things in your mind that programmers have to learn now that programmers in the past did not have to?
So Shashi, I think that is a very good point. But in that, I would say, I have quite a different opinion than you have. Because if you look at this, we 20 years back, if you talk about any software developer, probably people are writing software using core Java. They did not have any better ORM framework. They did not have Spring or something else. So it is something they were writing themselves. So in terms of technology, yes, they had to know only Java probably, or few other libraries if it was available that time. But everything else is like they were implementing. So the features Spring provides, JDBC template it provides, a lot of other things Spring provides, right? So everything is like developers' responsibility to implement. But now you can think it like people are going to learn a new thing, new technology, but that's going to reduce the amount of work they need to do. That's going to make deliveries faster. If you can deliver, if you were delivering some software in 1 year, now you can deliver that software very early, probably 2 or 3 months, because you are not writing some components. So the software like Kubernetes and then Spring or any other ORM framework or any other framework which is there today, they have some purpose because they solve its specific problem, and you don't code for that problem. So you are given the solution, you use that, you don't worry about that. Even if you talk about cloud, yes, definitely, once you start working on cloud, it is not easy. It's like right now you are working probably Windows server or Linux server. Once you have your Azure application or AWS application, you set up everything from your disk, from your memory, from your CPU to even networking cards and everything you set up. So that takes little bit time. That takes little bit time to understand the framework. But once you know that, it is very easy to code and deliver the software. So all of these technologies are available today, which makes our job easy actually.
That's right. Yeah. So I'll just take that question. Yeah, go ahead.
And an interesting point about that's I think this the amount of technology, right, gets us worried. You know, we feel overwhelmed. Oh, there's so many things for us to learn, so many things for us to do, right? But the reality is, you know, Neelan's mentioned here very, I mean, like amazing what she said, right? Because she said we can learn those things in a couple of weeks, right? When we need that, we need to learn. We can learn those things on a couple of things. So I think the biggest problem is not the amount of new technology we have to learn or the amount of technology that exists, right? The problem is that we believe, because we were led to believe, I think, right, that we need to know everything to be successful or to be productive or to anything like this. We kind of pretend, we think that we have to learn everything, but the reality is that we need to know what things are for, right? That's the only thing we do. You know, as for me, the difference between a junior developer and a senior developer is that the junior developer thinks that he needs to learn everything, and so he's desperate, right? The senior developer knows he doesn't know anything, right? But that he can learn fast, right? So he can learn in a couple of weeks. He can learn something and apply it, and he knows. So the only thing that the senior developer needs to know is, okay, that's Kubernetes, right? And that's we use it for this. Oh, that's Azure, and that's use it for that. Oh, there's Spring, that's use it for that. That's a new JavaScript framework, and that's use it for that. So once you understand what it is, right, what's for, how it solves a problem, and what the trade-offs are, right? Once you understand that, then you can decide, okay, so this thing here looks like the best thing for me to do here is use Kubernetes. Let me go use it, right? Because I think it was Ravi that said, I mean, maybe Shiva said that, that 80% of the learning, right, happens on the job, right? So I mean, so it's like if you try to learn, I've done this many times, right, in my life, right? And I'm sure all of you have done that. You buy a book or learn something, you do a tutorial, you learn something, and you spend some time learning, and then you spend like 2, 3 months, 6 months without using it, and then it shows up an opportunity for you to apply that, and you're like, what was that anyway? I don't remember anymore, right? So I have to go and relearn everything again, right? Because now I have a reason to apply it. So it's much better if you know what the thing is for, if you know what's going to be used, how it solved the problem, how you, and basically knowing it's kind of understand the components, right? Understanding a little bit of it, understand the architecture, where does it fit, right? So it's not a lot of learning, but it's a little bit of learning, right? And then when you need to apply it, you go and you really fast do what Neelan was talking about, right? You really fast apply that to somewhere, and then you learn it and you actually do it. So for me, that's the best way of doing things, because you will speed up your learning, right? Because you're going to be ready for it. It will allow you to apply the right things for the right problems, right? And will not overwhelm you at all, right? You can be learning new things a little bit every day. Without worry.
Right. Well, thanks for coming in. That's a great point, Bruno. So just to kind of go back to Neelam, because she works in BFSI. We have this in the Indian IT services. The largest IT employer in India is the IT services companies, and then these IT services companies a third of their revenue comes from serving BFSI clients. So Neelam, and I hear that Java programmers, 50% of them end up working for banking and financial services clients. So what are the problem-solving skills beyond the traditional Java skills that you would look for in people who are getting deployed on your project teams?
So when it comes to the beginners, as I said, the most important thing is the right attitude. Along with that, when they are onboarded onto any BFSI project, there is some domain related training. So if you have to work on the retail banking, that kind of a training is given, or cards or payments. So the relevant domain related trainings have been given by the companies once the project is selected. So that is, so along with the technology things, they also have to understand the domain. That is very important for BFSIs.
Okay. Shiva, anything you want to add on problem solving, particularly as far as Java is concerned?
Uh, yeah, so like if you again say like Java structure, so how like Bruno mentioned, so if anything doing or any learning going, we have to go on depth, like how it's working now. If you anything used to Java, so we have to go in depth in that, internally how it's working, what algorithm they are following. Okay, and before applying any logic, so we have to think, we have to create one picture in mind. If any problem coming, so we have to solve first. If not able to create in mind, so we can take book and paper and we can draw the architecture. And if your solution is there, so typing code is not much time. Okay, it won't take much time. So most of the time we invest on thinking only. We are means problem solution. We are finding the solutions. Okay, so that way we have to think. That's something. Don't run to learn Spring Boot, micro like Hibernate and all. First go and prepare the very basic, like you can system engineering. You can go with system engineering. You can learn first. Then data structure you can learn how it's working. Different algorithms is there that you can learn, and then core Java, and that's enough to like. Then you can think any problem coming, how we can solve by clubbing this all the things. This all the things is more than enough. Okay, to solve any problems. Yeah, with by using Java at least.
Okay, yeah, thanks for that, Shiva. And my next question is about a real problem that we face every day at work. We sometimes, also for the benefit of the older participants on the call, you do 6 years, 7 years of development, and then you tend to become, you sort of, you have a fork. You sort of encounter a fork. You can either specialize, you can become an architect or something that's more technical in nature, or you could become a manager and then you would start managing junior developers. There's a lot of resistance among developers to go the managerial route. And Bruno, I know that you've addressed that. So I want you and Ravi to do some quick takes on your advice for somebody who wants, a developer who wants to become a manager. Should he do it? Should he not do it? What are the considerations that he should have? What are things that he should evaluate before he makes that decision?
Okay,
Do you want to go first, Bruno? Or I can go. I can go first. Very interesting question, actually, because at Tide we truly believe that a developer should have both the options. It is that he can remain an engineer, hands-on coder throughout his career. So basically, he can go to the maximum level. Like, so we've got individual hands-on coder who's a VP, who's equivalent to the same level. It's called a principal developer. And then you've got a VP who's 40% into coding, but 60% into people management and organization management. And both these are very different tracks. It is not that managers are more powerful; they get paid more. Interestingly, our scales tilt more towards the core engineers than kind of people managers. So that's an interesting fact. The way one should look at it is in terms of what do they enjoy. At the end of the day, what you do, you should enjoy. If you like coding, and if managing people, managing inter-team complexities, dependency is not your cup of tea, then don't try to go there, because you lose you lose out from being a very strong developer, and you'll fail as a good manager. So whereas if you have a knack for managing people, motivating them, grooming them, developing them, solving interdependent problems between teams, between individuals, then move to the manager track. That's a good way to grow. So I know a lot of companies do not provide that, but I think now a lot more companies, especially product development and agile companies, have this option.
Yeah, I think that's you know, when you basically when you grow, right, you want to do it again. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it's all about what kind of problems you want to solve, right? Again, right? You know, when you grow, you might want to solve more sophisticated problems, right? So let's say you want to, let's say you're focused on performance, right? Now you like tweak every single piece of code to get very fast performance, all of that. So you get more and more into this and everything. So I mean, at some point, you might decide to just kind of go all in. That's my opinion, by the way, that you should go all in on anything that you want to do, right? So go all in into performance, right? And so then you become a performance specialist. But sometimes you actually on the project, you're the person that helps the other one. You're the person that you know, that likes to teach, right? That likes to decide, to make decisions. So go all in doing that, because you know, play on your strength, like Ravi said. And so and I think there is an opportunity for anyone in you know, because there's so many companies, there's so many opportunities out there. I think there's an opportunity for you to be a specialist on anything that you want to do. So if you want to be a specialist with people, go be a manager, right? Go do that. Go be better at people. If you want to be a specialist on code, go do that. And maybe your company doesn't have like a clear path, but if you're very good at this, I can guarantee that you're going to find a space, right? Actually, in your company, people are going to say, hey, Ravi, you're the guy that knows how to solve that problem, so you should come here, right? Hey, Vipin, you're the person here, right? So your company going to find you if you're very good at that, right? And if your company doesn't, some other company will, right? So I think that we should not be worried about specializing in the things that we're very good at. But you know, for me, the biggest thing that developers are afraid of when going to management is that, oh, if I go into management, I'm not going to be able to code anymore. And I love coding. I like people. I like to help people, but I also want to continue doing the technical work. And for me, it's very simple, right? You know, you can do both things. You can be a manager and a developer at the same time, but you have to decide which path you want to take stronger. So if you want to be a manager that does coding, basically get out of the critical path. That's it. Right? You know, my question I ask people is like, you know, oh, should I go to management or should I go to or should I continue being coding? My question is, look, if you have this problem, right? You know, you're a manager that also codes, right? But you have this production problem and something's broken, right? Your code that you wrote is broken on production, right? And at the same time, there is a person in your team that's going through a very difficult problem. Right? So what do you solve the code? Do you solve the production, or do you help the person? Right? You know, so there's a person in your team in the hospital, right? Do you go there to the hospital or you go solve the code? Both are right. There's no right or wrong answer, right? Both are right. But if you go to the hospital to help the person, you are a manager. If you stay and solve the code, you're a coder, right? So you have to decide which one you want to do. Now, how can you do both things at the same time? Get out of the critical path. So don't do production. You know, if you want to be a manager that codes, go do prototypes, go do proof of concept, go do tools for your team, go do things that will never have a production problem, right? And if you want to be a developer that also manages, go manage things that are not critical, right? So go manage your end of the year party, right? Go manage the soccer team on the company. I mean, go manage something else, right? So you can do both, but decide which one you're going to be in the critical path, because that's the one you're going to be. People are going to be looking at you to solve that problem when that problem shows up.
Right. So, Vipin, any perspective on that? Because, you know, you seem to have made that transition yourself, you know, from being a developer to a manager. Same with Neelam, you know. So your perspectives on that would really be insightful.
So I think I agree with what Bruno said there. So I completely agree there. In my case as well, like, when I did my transition, it was exactly like I wanted to development. And when I went for a job, people asked me, okay, this is what we have, this kind of the role we have. Then initially there were thoughts around, like, I'm talking about one of my past job which I did in Morgan Stanley. So I was an individual contributor, and I had reservations around this, like, oh, I don't want to be manager. I cannot be a manager. I'm going to remain individual contributor. But people help you. My managers will help me to understand benefits of that. And as Bruno said, right, don't get involved in the production code, right? Try to do POC and all, but that helps a lot. That helped me to learn, get into a lot of technologies. I was able to explore a lot of areas like Hadoop, big data. So that helped me a lot to learn a technology and become an architect, and to know the entire technology landscape. And now today I can take better decisions.
Right. Neelam, your take.
Yeah, one important point. Earlier days, we used to learn in the schools that what are your weaknesses, you should improve them, right? But now the school has changed. Now people are saying you should focus more on your strengths. So if you know you are good at that, rather than working on your weaknesses, you work more towards your strengths. So as Bruno rightly mentioned, whatever you like, what is your passion, go towards it. Work
Right.
more on your strengths, make them more strengthened rather than focusing on your weaknesses and trying to solve those things.
Right, right. So
Yeah.
just to kind of quickly summarize, because we've had the session, but 3 points really stood out. Number one, prioritize depth ahead of breadth, because you can become broad when you want to. Just in time learning. So whenever you want to pick up a skill, you could pick it up in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks. But really do specialize. That's one thing that came out. And I think the other most important insight that comes out from almost every speaker is that you should really have that problem-solving lens. In the sense that as a programmer, you kind of look at yourself as a problem solver. So you go in and then see if there's a problem that you can solve. Go find those interesting problems and solve them. So those are, I think, two most important things. And the third thing being obviously that if you want to be a manager, take yourself out of the critical path. Get out of the production applications, look at things that could create potential for innovation, like doing POCs, learning new stuff, trying a new architecture, stuff like that. So again, like Bruno said, that's an individual decision. So 3 great points. Just to summarize that session, there was a lot more in the session, but I think these points really stood out. So we have like 5 more minutes before we end this session. So I'd like to spend these 5 minutes trying to answer some of the questions that we are getting from people. So there's one question from Amardeep. He's asking if certifications are an option, or should they just go for developing their skills. I mean, to me the answer is obvious, but I would let one of you answer that for him. If somebody's looking for a job, should he go do a certification, or he should just spend time learning?
I think if the question is that would companies look for certification before they hire you? No. We look for what you can do, right? So like for us, we don't even look at whether you've done BTech or you've not done BTech, or it doesn't really matter. If you can code, if you have the logic, if you're passionate about coding, that's all that we care about. So that's a simple answer from a hiring perspective. Right. But obviously the certifications do have value. If you're doing them not just to pass, but if you're doing them for gaining knowledge, then they do have value if you apply them. So like Bruno said, if you do a certification and don't use it for 12 months, the value diminishes drastically unless you really apply the learning. So, but from a hiring perspective, we don't really look for certification.
Right. So the other technical question that maybe Shiva, you could take that, is if somebody wants to become a full stack developer, what's the roadmap that they have to follow?
So first about full stack developer will come like a front end, back end, as well as database. So basic of like full stack like Java If you first we have to go with core Java, we are very strong in that. And apart from that, we have to understand again it's legacy technology. Someone say like JSP and Solid, so people now ignore it, but that is a very important. Okay, so we have to understand how it's working. That Solid how it's work and JSP Java server page how it's work, and after that. That's means after that we have to learn about some basic of any database like you can take any database Oracle, Postgres or MongoDB, and we have to basic knowledge of database. Okay, not high level. So again I say if you are strong in system engineering, earlier I mentioned, okay, if you are strong with algorithm, system engineering and uh, data structures, so these all are learning are very easy, so that all help as a full stack developer. Okay, this all the knowledge required. It's not something like we can go and directly learn front end technology and that core Java and database. So if have basics are clear, you have very good system engineering design and algorithm. So that all. And we
Right.
can go better, we can go by step. So if anyone want, if you apart from Java, I say like if you go with main stack, we have JavaScript also. So if you know basically only JavaScript also, some people say like Java is very like high, so I have less time. Okay, of course no one know all the complete Java. Okay, it's very big. So it's a depends. Someone going with JavaScript, or if JavaScript also is enough to go as a full stack developer. Okay, nowadays people are concentrating on that only. They are going as a Mongo and Node and Java. Okay, JavaScript. So the different things is there. So as of now, I can say like we have to go with core Java. First we have to learn, and then we go with Solid, like server side programming, and then we have to learn JSP. Apart from if this all are the clear, so we can go with any like design part, any framework like MVC or so that is the step we have to follow as a full stack developer.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Shiva. So we are at the top of the hour. So any closing thoughts? Anybody wants to say? We'll just extend this call for 5 more minutes, and then we will end it if everybody is fine with that.
Yeah. So one thing I have,
Yeah.
Shashi, I want to add here, like I think lot of people are asking questions around the hiring process and Java. So I have a book. I have created a book especially for that, especially for the Java developers and beginner Java developers who doesn't understand what do they need to study to get a best Java job. So I have given this to everybody. I hope
Right.
everybody can see this. So you can go to this link and you can download the book. It has clear steps, 5 steps to get a best Java job. And those are steps to get best Java job in the world's best Java job. So once you do initial 1 or 2 steps, you will get a master in Java. And then next of the steps are like going to give you really the best Java jobs. You can develop anything in the Java. You can even develop the Java itself. Okay.
Okay.
And in case you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. You have my contact over there. Send me an email, and then I can help you if anywhere I can.
Yeah. So participants on the call, do check out J features, and yeah, just take advantage of all the advice that's there. So Ravi, you want to any closing thoughts?
And just one thing, so whatever you do, do it with your full heart, So I think if your heart follows, if you follow your heart and then, your passion, you'll get there.
Right.
So keep looking for, do reach out to people in the industry, like Vipin has given a good suggestion, there'll be a good pathway, good guideline, things what Bruno said. So seek for advice. It's always good to ask for help. It's always good to ask for advice, and just follow your passion.
Okay, let me quickly talk a little bit about some of the questions here. So there's a couple of people asking for a roadmap and things like that. So so that's I'll talk about that really quick. But there's a question here from I don't know who that was from Amandeep, I think. That when you need to choose production versus anything else, always the preference goes to production. No, that's not true, right? Let me give you a silly example. If there's a production problem, I don't think the security guard in your company will run there to have a production problem. Will he? No, he'll keep there protecting the interest of your company, right? So I don't think your CEO or your lawyer of the company going to run to do production, right? So each person in a company has a job, right? So it is the job of the developer to go fix the production problem, right? But it's not the job of the manager to go fix the production problem. So it's a choice. So where you fit on your company, that's the taking, right? So I think this is very important. So it's not the demand that makes everything. It's not that because there's a problem, everyone rushes to that. The right person. That's what specialization is all about. A lot of people ask me, Bruno, specialize. Am I going to lose something? I want to be there's people saying, I want to be a full stack developer because I want to learn everything, right? But the thing is, look, guys, you're already very, very specialized, right? Developers are less than 1/4 of 1% of the population in the world, right? So you're very specialized. Are you afraid to be a little bit more specialized? Don't be, right? Be very specialized in what you're doing. And so I'm going to follow Vipin's lead here. And one thing I want to do here, really quick, is that I'm going to give you, everyone here, 5 books, right? How about that? I think that's I got a group of friends and we wrote, hopefully you can see my screen there. I got a group of friends and we wrote 5 books to help you with architecture, with coding, with all kinds of things. So that should help answer a lot of the questions there. So we have a low-hanging software architecture. It's a book from Yugo Sakamoto about architecture. I have a low-hanging talk. It's a book that's going to help you present and share your knowledge. There's a book from Scott about low-hanging code smell so you can be a better developer. The Java champion, Rafael Del Nero, wrote this low-hanging Java challenge to give you a challenge about Java. And Eyal, it's a Java user group leader in the US, wrote a book about machine learning, right? So those 5 books are going to be free for you. Just come to this page right there. Low-hanging books. I'm going to also put the link in the chat in a minute. But so you guys can come here, download those 5 books completely free. And those books are going to give you, you get those 5 books plus Vipin book, right? And it's going to give you a full roadmap for you to improve your career, for you to go learn cool stuff and get things going, right? So, just get this link right now. And then, and by the way, some people asking, can you send me your email? Yes. If you go there and you download my book, I'm going to send you an email with the book, right? So then you have my email, you can send me questions and I'll help you out in anything that you're going through. All right. So, and just to end this here, thanks everyone. It was great having this conversation here. It's great. Thanks everyone for all the panelists. It was awesome to have to be here with you. Thanks everyone that attended and asked questions. You guys rock. Go rock your career. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruno. Thank you, Shashi. Thank you, Vipin, Neelam, and Shiva for attending this session. Your inputs were really valuable.
Yeah, very special thanks to the panel, and I really thank all the participants. And do really check out those resources; they're very interesting. I'm going to download them, so go quickly and get those resources. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank
Have
you,
a good
guys.
evening. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.